I know that it's a complex system.
before I forget.
Yeah, okay, good
Yeah.
thinking. So very little, I just know that there were like three, four, five different types, and that's the extent of it, really.
Okay, cool. So human design is like the blend of the four different types of or four different elements that read charts in different ways. You've got the I Ching, the Kabbalah, the chakra system, and the astrological system. And it draws quite a lot from Vedic knowledge as well. So within the Vedic construct, which of course, keep in mind that the Silk Road and the transition of all this information and the variations are all linked together. They're really all fragmented versions of something similar, in my opinion. And we can certainly see the knowledge of Buddhism, of transcendentalism, of Taoism, etc., just passing down that Silk Road, along with cooking and spices and the way to deal with certain foods, the concept of doshas becoming the concepts of, the four or five elements and how they present in the body in balance, out of balance, which we see coming through in China, and in the Japanese systems and stuff like that. So these systems, which are 5,000, 10,000, depending on which one, year-old traditions, they all seem to have some quality of validity. And people don't quite know why, because it seems pretty out there. But actually, when Ra downloaded this system in 1987, he said, there is a nanoparticle so small it can pass through solid objects. And there's so much of it, the stardust, essentially, that's in a nanoparticle form, that it imprints your system. And that's why all of these systems work. And so what we see in human design is perhaps the first fusion, though we've seen astrologers and numerologists knit together those two things. It's probably the first fusion of multiple elements to, instead of describe a personality, even though within some charts, including the example I've used here, but I'm looking at patching my system to something else because I don't like personality as a description in human design. I think it's shitty. We see these elements of personality description, but here what we see is an energy typing system. We see something that describes the way your energy system is designed to work and fuse in with others. Now I'll just do a share screen.
Sorry, just
Yes.
wonder, is there someone behind your window, or that's like a shadow of something? Oh, okay, because something moving, I thought that you probably have someone knocking on your door or something like that.
No, that would come from that way. No, there's just a lot of trees in this garden. So,
okay.
And they're quite close because it's Auckland, so it's smaller. Let me do a share screen. But feel free to interrupt whenever you like.
Okay.
Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Okay, so
and I assume you will send this to me as well, right?
Yeah. So this is your basic printout, yeah? And what we have here is your chart, and you come up as a generator, and a pure generator. More importantly, a pure generator with a completely open crown, open heart, and open emotional center. So I'm pointing those out because I want to come back to those because it's quite important to understand your open centers.
Okay, sorry, crown, heart, and what's the other one?
Emotional.
Okay.
So in these centers, you will receive information from others and amplify that information. And it's also areas where you can gain programming and conditioning, which is very interesting specifically to your design because you're here really to unpick all of that. So, and not just for yourself, even though within your motivation, which is innocence, and motivation is a phrase. So one of the things to understand about human design is some of the words are very specific to human design. And so you hear motivation and you might think of it in a certain way, but when we say motivation, we mean it slightly differently.
Okay.
So motivation is, how do I put this? It's usually how you, it's what you use. It's an external authority or an outer authority. It's what you put out into the world. So it's not how you're motivated, though it does relate to that, definitely. And yours is innocence, which is a very I'm going to say selfish, but self-introverted kind of, it's all about you and your experience. But that innocence motivation is interesting because it means despite your leadership channel, you're not really meant to be a leader because of the way you go out into the world, right? But you do have the creative role model there as a leadership channel. So it's a very interesting balance. So it's really what innocence means, and it's a very unique motivation. And usually I wouldn't talk about it with regards to generators, but I do want to talk about it a little bit with you, is that you're here to experience something for what it is and to reflect that and to bring that quality of innocence, just purely experiencing something for exactly what it is and not necessarily trying to use that experience to lead. And when you get caught up in the motivation of leading or desire to lead, it can get very tricky for you. And yeah, I would always watch out for that desire to lead. Being a natural leader is quite different to the desire to want to lead. And I have a friend who's in innocence motivation, and she's often in what we'd call transference because she's often trying to lead. And she means well, but it doesn't work for her. And that's a really important thing to understand. The desire to lead is not for you. Naturally leading, that's different, but the desire to, the push to, that kind of aspiration, I would watch out for. So for example, I'm a hope motivator. And the contrast or the opposite transference to that is guilt. And guilt is all about fixing things. So when I start trying to find a solution or fix something, I'm in transference. And I usually do it when I'm panicking or my ego is being pushed around. So usually at that point where you're looking to lead and trying to lead, you're going to find your ego is probably at play. Yeah?
Makes sense. Yeah. So what you're saying is that I have the natural ability to become a leader, but I shouldn't desire to be a leader. Is that what you're saying?
Allow leadership to rise out of you. Don't go looking for it.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
I think that's quite important with your chart and with a natural leadership quality there, is that leadership should be something that people find in you, not something you seek to promote.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that because I never aspire to be a leader. I mean, I'm quite happy to follow. Like I'm happy to just like, if someone is capable of leading everything, I'm happy to follow. But I more often than not sometimes will fall into that sort of like leadership because either the people wants me to lead or the situation requires me to take action of something and then lead. But I personally do not want to be a leader. But yes, and if I do desire to lead something later on or during that process, I would be like, oh yeah, this is totally my ego talking. Like this is my ego wanting this. And the way I approach it would be very different.
And it's problematic because what we see is when we shift into, so when I shift into my transference, I shift into, I'm in panic, I'm spiraling a toilet drain, my head gets crazy, you know, there's all these sort of layers of things that come up. And ultimately, it ends up feeding my bitterness, which is my contrast or my not self theme. For you, it would be, excuse me, it ends up feeding your frustration.
Oh yeah, totally. Because when I frustrated, usually when I lean harder to become a leader, and that's when all my ego would be like, "But I know better. But I can do it better. Like I know it the best, and it's about like I, me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I could do better than this person. And it's like, so now you're desiring to lead, to get yourself out of your frustration. Exactly.
And then becoming more frustrated in the process of doing that.
Exactly. So this is and it's like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So understanding this is a really good step to my contrast or not self theme is frustration. And frustration is a way I burn out my energy and I fuck up my stomach. Remember that resisting frustration doesn't help you, right? So when I start to spiral the toilet drain, how do I get myself out of that? The first thing is, oh, I'm in frustration. Somewhere here, I did something that has taken me out of alignment. As a generator, you're a responder. And people are like, well, what does that mean? I think you even asked it that. What does responding mean? Responding can be responding to anything, but what it very importantly means is you're not here to initiate anything.
Okay.
So say, for example, you get a great idea, and that idea literally comes to you out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And maybe someone comes along and creates something, and from there you kind of get another idea and you go, oh, we could go off to the right with this. We could go completely in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
If you are invited to come up with a different direction and your gut, because you're a pure generator, so it's all sacral, and it really is this gut going, ooh, like it's like a, it's a real movement towards the thing. So if your gut did this, then that would be for you. And it's nice and quick, right? It's a nice, quick, yep, I want to help come up with a new thing. I want to initiate, I would not initiate. I want to respond by saying yes, and I'm going to come up with something new off your request. But if someone came along and they set something up and your system wanted to go completely left of field with something there, within that realm, you might be stepping out of design. Now, in a sense, there's potentially a gut response. Oh, this is interesting, but we could go over here. So there could be a gut sacral response, but really the sacral response should be seen as simplistic. Yes, no, right? So when something comes to you, it's yes, that's interesting, or no, it's not. The catch is trying to initiate something. So say nothing comes to you and you go, you know what? I'm going to go out there and sell myself as a coach. But there was no advert. There was no one who said, hey, have you thought about this? There was no one who invited you to something. There was no guidance. There was no stimulation where your gut got to respond. You just sat there one day and went, that seems like a good idea. I'll go do that. But there's no gut response. So the energy isn't lighting up towards it. When you have a good response, there's going to be a lot of energy for moving towards the thing.
Okay. Questions?
Yes.
So you're saying if I have an idea, I should wait until someone kind of like
yes. Yes.
I should wait until someone provide me with something like a bait that I will catch.
Or even you're looking for your gut to go, yes, that's a great idea. So you can have as many ideas as you like, nothing wrong with that. But you want your gut to light up to them from some external stimulation. And it can be anything, but it needs to be external so that you can have a physical response.
Okay. Now my second...
let me finish answering that.
Yeah.
So I'm someone who works by invitation. So sitting in my meditation, things come to me. And so there's this question that always comes up about manifestation. Well, everybody can manifest. because we use the term manifestation with regards to manifestors within human design, I like to use the word create, right? Manifestors manifest by initiating. Creators sit here and draw it towards them. So when you listen to someone like Joe Dispenza, he describes this perfectly for generator types, because this is what he's done, right? This is how he's created his life. You sit there, something drops in, you're like, and you've got a knowing channel there, right? So things will drop in for you. You may even speak them out. Ooh, and it's like your voice is saying, I want this thing, right? This aligns with me. Now you sit there and you meditate and you imagine what it's like to go to it, how it's all going to drop in for you. But ultimately, when you bring your vibration up to that which you desire, right? Then what you're waiting for is for someone to come and offer it to you and to understand that it does work that way. And when they come to offer it to you, you get to feel that your whole system is there for it. But also what's happening on a level of creation is you have aligned your vibration to receive the thing that you want. So it's all well and good to decide, I want to be the president of the United States. But if your vibration is down here, you're never going to receive that. Okay. And so what happens out in 3D also is that as we bring our vibration in alignment with something, you are going to start getting things to respond to in order to see that the energy is now aligned to move towards it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. So I work better with examples. So for example, I had an idea about a PhD topic, and that's been ruminating in the past, I don't know, 3 years, but I haven't really done anything about it. And then I voiced it to, like, I don't know, 3 years ago, I voiced it to my supervisor when I was in master's, talking about it a little bit. And then I asked him, like, oh, do you want to be my supervisor? Jokingly, but also not jokingly, if I ever do PhD. And then he was like, no, I'm not an expert in that, la, la, la. And that was just like, just a part of a catch-up conversation. And then recently I built up, that came back to me, that idea came back to me. And then I start playing with that a little bit more. And then I bumped into my ex-supervisor in one of the university's event, and then we start talking, and then he was like, literally first thing, like, when are you going to do your PhD? And then we start talking about that, and then he literally offered me to be my supervisor, and he can supervise me for free until he feel like, oh, you need to pay me now. And so I kind of like, oh, okay, so is that one of the examples in which I have an idea and then I wait until someone offer me something and then I need to, then I will respond to it?
Then yes, and then you see what your response is. Exactly. So, and your response is quite simple. It's a light up or it's not. There's either nothing there, there's a big fat fucking back the hell off, like a hell no, or there's a movement. Like, to me, and I don't have a sacred response, but I'm here to expertly understand yours, right? Like, I'm designed for generators. So it's like from the gut, like, it's like the engine got like kick starts and starts moving towards.
Like an excitement or like a...
Yeah, it's not even an emotion. It's a shift of energy which goes, I want to grab it, like, yeah, I'm going that way. Like, and it'll be quite quick. And for a generator, what works for you today, and this is important to note, may not work for you tomorrow, right? So you may today be like, I'm all about that PhD, but 3 years from now, if you're still in it, it may have shifted and you may not be about that PhD anymore. And we have a lot of, and this is where your conditioning stuff comes in. I'm drinking cacao and it's weirdly gritty and it's sticking in my throat.
Do you want to grab water or something?
I should, but look at this cup. How pretty.
Oh, very pretty. I like it.
Yeah. It's like a shamanic symbol for journeying, which I picked up when I was in Aussie. So important to understand that you're here to deprogram, to see through the conditioning, to see through the bullshit, basically. So if you look at, and you come, I mean, I know you have this understanding too, I've seen this in you. If you look at religion, if you look at society, if you look at politics, if you look at history, there's layer upon layer of stuff that's been built up that's somewhat toxic to our existence, right? It keeps us stuck in a contracted space. And very much a part of what you're here to do is to help unpick that, to see through it, you know, to mend what has been broken, right? So important to understand that the concept of finishing one's education is ridiculous. I think that's an important thing for you to grasp. Doesn't mean don't finish, but what it does mean is if you're sacral, when you check back in each 6 months, each whatever, says you're done with that, I don't have the energy towards that, that's when you put that on hold and you go do what your gut does light up towards. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, yeah.
So to be a well-run generator, and honestly, you are sitting on source energy. It is plugged into your gut. It is there for you all the time. And if you run this correctly, you'll never need to sleep again in your life. Yeah, it's that cool.
Because I have all the energy to
You have
go.
source into your gut.
Okay, that's
so
cool.
It is cool. It is
So
really
what you're saying is that if I do decide to embark on something, I don't have to feel guilty if I don't finish it, or towards the end I don't feel good anymore. I don't have to feel guilty of not finishing that. Is that the lesson here? Okay.
shoulda, coulda, woulda, must, guilt, shame, etc. You quite specifically are here to unpick all this shit, right? You are here to mend what has been broken. And these are broken things within us as human beings. The construct we see around us.
When you say me, it's why I'm here. Is it because of my design, or me as a human? We all humans are here to mend the broken.
True. But yes, you quite specifically have a design that lends towards this. So you're in Sun Gate 18. So I'm sort of referencing, because I've read your chart, I'm referencing other things I've seen. But yes, you quite specifically have this quality, which, and also I think for someone who comes from your background and some of the stuff we've discussed, it's clear you have this quality. It's obvious, right? You have this quality of being able to see through the bullshit a little bit, you know?
Okay.
And you have an incredible ability to focus. You have an incredible ability to continually go into the knowledge, seek the truth, do all of that sort of stuff, not necessarily to do anything with it, but just for the experience of doing it, and an incredibly high level of concentration. You know, you have the channel of concentration. So you have an incredible ability just to focus.
Good to know that.
Yeah, you do. So the question is, when you don't want to focus, did you choose something that's not for you? Are you still doing something that's not for you? And things are not for us moment to moment. 3 months down the track, it might be ready. Like, nothing is forever. You know, we are not forever, not in this construct. Anyway, everything is always moving. So, I mean, I'm informally educated 90% and formally educated 10%. And what I can tell you is there's lots of formal routes I've gone down, my law and commerce degree, for example, that have been very useful, even though I didn't finish them. And so I would say to you, because I always want you to have abundant energy that you can do whatever you want with, be aware of getting caught up in things just because you said you'd do it, or just because you started, because you don't have to. And you will always go on to something else. And there will always be things you will complete, and there will always be things in life that we don't complete. But in essence, education is never completed. And certainly for people like you and me, education is never completed. We will always be learning something, and it will always be serving, and it will always come to serve in some construct. So trusting in that, irrespective of where you take something to, and also trusting that just because I leave it now for 6 months, a year, 3 years, doesn't mean I can't come back. Should my sacral go, oh, I'm inspired again. I'm ready.
Okay. Thank you for giving me the permission for that. Because sometimes I feel like, but I already committed to it, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be school, but it's just something like a project or something. Another question. Okay, sorry. Before I go to the second question, a second example is when same thing. I've been ruminating of living leaving New Zealand to go elsewhere to be closer to mom. But recently when I was on a holiday, and then I had like this mini microsecond when I felt like my brain and my heart and my intuition was aligned, and then kind of like, oh yeah, we're doing it. Is that what you say about that gut feeling? Is that I mean, I think I'm still a little bit confused about how the gut feeling should look like. Is it more like an intuition, like the little voice, or is it like a bodily reaction? And how can I listen to it better? I think that's the question.
Takes time to really get the grasp of the feelings that we have in our bodies and how these are designed to make decisions. And because you have a defined ajna, so your mind, that's this triangle here, because that is defined for you, it's very easy for you to use that mind to try to calculate, because it's so ready and willing. And I have a defined ajna too. And we're also taught and programmed that you should use your mind to write pros and cons lists to make decisions. Good luck, right? So when I'm pros and conning, I know I'm in my head, right? When I'm umming and ahhing and arguing with myself, I know I'm in my head. When I have nothing there and something comes in and my body does this, or when I feel my physicality and it will be lower down, right? Actually leap towards something or retract from something. Let me use a simple example. Guy comes up to you in a club and he's hot and you're interested and he invites you to dance. And you go, right? Very physical. It's going to be naturally very physical. And yeah, your hormones might be at play, but it's totally physical. Another guy comes up to you in a club and he's sleazy and grimy and you don't want to dance with him and you do this, right? Third guy comes up to you. He's sweet. He's polite. You're not interested at all. You don't want to lead him on. But, and here's the head coming in, you don't want to be mean. So your body goes like this, but you go, oh, okay. Right? And you're just wondering how long until you can get away from him. It's a good example, right? So you've got one very clear example of, oh, yes. You've got one very clear example of, oh, no. And they're not logical at all. They're not calculated in the mind. They're totally body responses. And then you've got that other one, which has a clear body response, which you go against and you get frustrated in. And actually you do a disservice to him because you are leading him on, you know, because you know he came up to you for a certain reason and you're being nice, but actually it's a pity dance, you know, and that's also to judge him beyond a whole lot of other things, because there are people that would be interested in him potentially. And you're doing something because actually you don't think there would be, you know, like ultimately we're too nice there because we've been programmed to be good Christians. And actually that good Christianity is something that's broken within our structure that needs to be mended with a little bit more honesty. Oh, you're a very nice guy, but I don't want to lead you on. I'm not interested. Would be enough, right? So it's kind of like that. It's that you're going to feel it. It's pretty quick. It says yes. When you get into something, well, here's where it gets complicated. But when you get into something where you feel obligated, so let's take you moving to be closer to your mum. Is that something you feel you need to do because of family connection?
Not necessarily, because also I want to explore the world, because I feel like I haven't. This is my first overseas gig. I want to explore other parts of the world.
Right. So let me ask you a question. Is it exploring other parts of the world to move next to your mum?
If I can pick a location that is closer to mom, that would be great. But if it's not, then it's not a big problem. Like, for example, if I move to, because I was thinking two places. If I move to Dubai, then that would be also closer to mom. So that's a bonus point. But if I, let's say, move to Europe, which is distance-wise equally far, that's okay too.
Either of those,
So
I'm
I
coming
think
to
it's
stay, by the way. But
pardon?
either of those, I'm coming to stay, FYI.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Come hang out with me. But yeah, it's more about my desire to explore the world rather than my obligation to be close to my mom. I think that's the reasoning for my decision was that.
Right. So you get to kill two birds with one stone. Yeah. Okay. Well, so that's different. That's not really about moving near mum. That's just about getting out there. Now, here's the thing. You could see something as simple as an advert come up for Dubai, and your gut goes, right? When I decided to move to Auckland, I didn't know it was going to happen. I felt it. And then I got an invitation for a house here. Now I can go wherever I want, right? And because my body feels things, it's all about the emotional feeling and clarity. So it's quite different to sacral. Yeah. Sacral is very black and white. Emotional is more a scale of 80% sure, whereas you get to be 100% sure. Yeah.
Right. I see.
So I just had a physical feeling of expansion in my body when I was here. And so I was like, fuck, I'm moving to Auckland. Like, I just knew the clarity was there. There was no desire to move here. I was not thinking about anything. It was totally a physical feeling. And I was like, cool. And then I got an invitation to move into this house. Then everything lined up for me. So, and when I got the invitation, I already had the clarity. And I was like, cool, I need to check this out more. It doesn't mean the invitation was perfect. And actually, when I moved at the start of Mercury retrograde. So what that meant was something in the communication was, what's the word? Was not necessarily clear, but it would be little because I'd already said yes, it had already been initiated outside of the Mercury retrograde. So just moving on the Mercury retrograde meant something that had been communicated might not be quite what I was expecting. And that was all true, by the way. There was something that wasn't quite, but it was fairly small, but it was still, if I'd relied on it too much, then, So you can, for yourself, do whatever you want. But when you are initiating or when you are trying to start big things in your life, like projects or even moving overseas, you definitely want something to stimulate where you're going. I knew I wanted to move. I had no idea where. I kept going places and trying to feel it out. For you, it would be going places and getting a gut response. So you could go to Dubai and your gut could go, ooh, or it could go, eh. You could go to Europe and you could go to Hungary and fucking hate it, which in winter you probably will because it's a weird place. But you could go to Paris and totally light up. You could go to Amsterdam and totally light up. And your gut will be like, yeah. And you'll have energy. And yeah, it would probably feel a little bit like excitement or energy, positive energy.
Because I felt that when I was in Sydney recently, and that was not at the same time, but when I was there in the first 3 days, I felt that excitement. I felt like, oh, I miss this hype. This ignited my spark that was dormant and all that. And then on the fourth day, when I was walking down the park, I was like, that moment, like, oh yeah, we're doing it. We're moving. We're wrapping up our chapter in New Zealand, and we're moving. That's sort of like the message that I felt.
Yeah.
So yeah, was that like one of the gut feelings that I
would say that's a direct response. Yeah, for sure. And you do have good intuition in there as well. And
I do.
Yeah, you do. You have very strong intuition and very strong within business. You have a strong intuition beyond your head to see patterns and to intuit the pattern. And so, but you have a strong intuition through the channel of judgment. And this is a pretty cool channel, right? So it's the ability to see the way through the problem and in order to create something new. So there's a pressure in you to create something new. There's a pressure in you to, go from 0 to 1. I don't know if you've heard of Peter Thiel's book. I'm not a huge fan of it, but the basic concept is very simple. 0 is hanging out doing what everyone else has done, and going to 1 is creating something that's a little bit different, and you have that pressure in you, like, how do we do something that's a little bit different? So, so you have this way of being able to look at all of the things and see your way through. And the shadow there is judgmentalism in the channel of judgment. And it's a natural part of having the channel of judgment, is that sometimes your judgmentalism will come up. And that's usually against ourselves and against others, right? But usually it's the worst on ourselves. We turn that judgmentalism on ourselves and really kill ourselves off with not being good enough, right? I'm not good enough. And that's what comes out of this gate 18. So the fear, the fear of not being good enough. But you have good intuition to solve a problem. You have good intuition to have that great oversight for people and for yourself. And you have great intuition. So there will be a lining up for you. I think that's a very good description, where the gut says yes and the intuition drops in, because the gut is your sacral response and you can go with that. But intuition is also an authority that you have at play. It's just not your dominant authority. Yeah.
So the gut and the intuitions are different. I think I'm still trying to wrap my head around the gut sacral decision-making system.
I think this has been so badly explained in our society, right?
Yeah.
Decision-making is all in the head, which is wrong, right? Decisions are made by feeling. And there are different types of feelings. So I have an emotional feeling. It takes time. It can take me a fucking week. It can take me a year, to feel something out. It can take me a day. And it's worth noting with emotional people, which you are not, you're emotionally open, which is something else to discuss. But with emotional people, you can't demand of them in the moment. You can't say, oh, well, I want to know now. And that's 51% of the world. You can't demand of them in the moment, I want to know now. You need to give them time. They're not in the now people like that at all. Oh, I'd love to hang out with you today. Cool. Call me back tomorrow. I'll let you know if I'm free. Like that should be their response for themselves. I have an emotional projector friend and we want to hang out this week sometime, but we know that each day is a little bit different. So I was like, why don't we connect Friday morning and make sure Friday afternoon is still okay? The feeling might have changed by then, and we're allowing each other, So it's worth noting that about emotional people. With pretty much everyone else, they have a quicker system. A gut response is relatively instant. An intuitive response is even quicker, right? But you are sacral, so gut response is most important. But you have that strong intuition there, and intuition is different. It's a quick feeling, very quick feeling. It'll be instant. So you meet someone and you're like, ooh, your intuition lights up. What's the difference between my gut and my intuition?
I think that's my question. Yeah, because I'm pretty familiar with what I thought this is intuition. I don't know whether this is intuition or gut feeling. I don't know, but that sort of, I would describe it as that inner voice, or that kind of like no, or yes, or whatever. Yeah.
So is that yes and no.
Yeah, okay.
Yes and no is more gut. So if you're getting definite yes, definite no, I would say gut. If you're getting intuition, it's like, I don't know why, but this. It's like subtle.
Okay.
And it's not as clear as yes or no. It's go this way. Oh, but why? Right?
Okay. Or if I have a good feeling about this, or I have a good feeling about that person, is that intuition or is that gut?
Hard to say depending on how that comes about. And I would say physically, here starts your experiment. Where do I feel it from? And is my intuition, I don't know why, but something says, or is my intuition yes? Right? So black and white versus like, and purely intuitive people, they have this tendency to be like, so I'm going this way, why the fuck? You know, like they can have those moments where they're like, intuition says this, but fuck knows why. Whereas gut is clear because yes.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. If it's like a yes and no, that's gut.
If it's very clear, I would say that's your gut. And if it's down here, I would start paying attention to you. Do you feel it here?
Do you physically feel it?
Yep. An invitation to the physical.
Because ever since my first reading that I mentioned to you, and I asked the same question, and obviously I'm still confused. She said that I let my body decide, even for like smallest thing, like, oh, what do I want to eat, la la la, and I let my body decide. And I've been doing that, so I've been paying more attention to my body. And there was one time, and this never happened before. I went on a date with a guy, and the first date, and then as we were sitting one another, I can feel like my body kind of like move towards him, like, you know, we're sitting across the table from each other, and I can feel like my belly kind of like move towards him. I'm like, oh, this has never happened before. Is that gut feeling?
That's gut?
Huh? Belly.
That belly is gut. Belly is gut because it's sacral. So if you think about your chakras, it's this one. Boom.
Yeah.
If it's spleen, you know, spleen is more different location.
Yeah.
But also spleen is like, it's survivalist. So it's very fast. It's, if you think about, so it's the oldest authority. It's what we used when we were 5-centered beings, and we've gone through 2 evolutions since then, right? So that 5-centered being was all spleen, because it was all the snap of a twig, the way the leaves rustle, you know, the noise in the grass, the hiss of a snake, it was all sound, feeling, your hairs standing up on the back of your neck. So when you're looking at intuition, it's not necessarily clear, but it gives you that whisper. It gives you that nudge. It gives you a little whatever. And maybe you step that way and then your gut gets to light up, you know? Or maybe your gut lights up and then your intuition, as it starts moving through the experience, gives you little whispers about different directions that might be better or worse. But ultimately your gut. So I would always expect a gut response, but intuition comes in for many things. And for you,
how do I hone this scale of being able to listen to my gut? Because I'm familiar with intuition.
Say that again.
How do I get familiar with the gut response? How do I
honestly, this is like taking your meditation and putting it in practice. Okay. So for me, because I'm sacral, so that's higher. Sacral, not sacral, solar plexus. So that's up here. Especially when I bring my meditation in to watch my emotions. And you know, you meditate a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you know when you develop that observer, it gives you distance from your reaction. Mm-hmm. So for me, a reaction is a full emotional wave, and it can take days to go through. But when I take that step back, I can see the wave, but I'm not reacting, right? But the wave still happens. And that wave actually becomes very physical. So I can feel my solar plexus doing really interesting things, and it's physical as. But it's only through understanding this and then through the knowledge that this is very physical and then watching the wave and gaining that observer distance that I've gone, oh my God, I can actually literally feel the twisting of my solar plexus. So as you become more familiar with what you're looking for, you're going to feel it.
Okay, so pay more attention to my belly, like the sacral area.
There's a reason there was a bunch of yogis contemplating their belly button. 70% of the world has some sort of sacral response. It makes a
Okay,
lot of sense, right?
interesting. Okay, I will pay more attention then.
And I look
Okay,
forward to
and
hearing what you
yeah,
discover because I don't have it.
okay,
I have something
yeah.
else, but I can feel yours and I can feel your energy, but I don't have a gut response. In fact, when people used to say go with your gut, I thought it was just a saying. And when I discovered human design, I was like, it's not a fucking saying. It's a real thing for people.
You just don't feel that. You just don't have, it's not
I
you.
just don't have it. And for
Yeah.
me, I was always like, decisions make themselves. You just have to wait for clarity. And that's the description of the emotional authority. That's exactly it. And I already knew that, right? So super funny that I knew how to explain my own system. And
Without
others
even
do too. They speak it.
before you know that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so my lesson so far, to recap it for myself, is that not seeking for leadership, let the leadership come to me, allowing it to happen if it happens, but not seeking for it.
Well,
And I
also allowing yourself to become the leader without any effort, that it becomes effortless for you, that your leadership is through example.
that is very funny you said that, because I never want to be a role model, but I just living my life. And then many people along the way will say like, oh, you're my role model, or like, oh, you inspired me to be XYZ. And I'm like, okay, cool.
And that's going to happen more and more. And you're going to
Okay.
find that because you are in the life theme of the role model, you have the creative role model channel, but you're also a 4-6, which is basically the networker and the role model, you know, the opportunist and the role model, they sometimes call it. But this is a quality where by 50, you get a rebirth. And you should definitely be getting a reading leading into your 50s about your Chiron returns, because at that stage it will become relevant. Your next reading would be for your Uranus opposition, which will be for you. I didn't run it, but I would say around 44, 42, somewhere around there. Could be slightly earlier, but I have a feeling you're in the group that's a bit later. So, but yeah, your Uranus opposition would be your next one to check into. And then I would look potentially at your 47. I would start looking at what's happening coming into 47. Maybe I'd get another reading there too. So 44, 40, so 42, 46, and then maybe a refresher around 50, because that's when you get your rebirth as a 6 profile.
Okay. I know very little about what you're saying, but I am taking notes.
Yeah.
And then what uh I need to pay attention to my gut and my sacral. I'm here to experience, and I specifically am here to mend the broken. You were saying about resistance. Sorry, your resistance is frustration. What would my resistance be?
No, yours is frustration, mine's bitterness. Bitterness is worse. Trust me, frustration is easier.
Oh, okay, okay. So
as
when
a generator,
okay, so sorry. So when I feel frustrated, that means that I'm not aligning with myself. Is that
it
the correct?
means you haven't followed your gut. Very, very simply.
Uh,
It means you fucked something up. And it's so much fun when you approach it like this sort of experimental game.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
because I do like to experiment with myself.
yeah. Oh, and this is a way, especially when you're into the meditative practice, right? This is a way of self-discovery that's like, it's like color by numbers. It's like, it makes it really simple. It's like, so I'm in frustration. So you're sitting there chewing away at your gut. And keep in mind, going into frustration is not a problem. In fact, it's a great invitation for you to learn something. And we all flip in and out of our not self. And I don't like not self theme because it is you. It's
Yeah,
totally you, right? But it's your
yeah.
contrast. It's you slipping out of alignment. So when
Mm.
I'm out of alignment, I start blaming everybody. I go into bitterness, blah, blah, blah. You're more likely to blame yourself actually in frustration. But But I go into this and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And then I go, ooh, there's my bitterness. How did I get here? What did I do? Right? So often for generators, there's generators in particular, not many Jennies, have a tendency to stay into things too long out of obligation. That is a huge problem for the generator. They're the person that's in the same job 30 fucking years later, frustrated as fuck, right? Because they should have left 20 years ago. But because they said yes when it was a great job for them, they never checked back in to see, and you can simply ask yourself a question. Is this job still for me? Is this country still for me? You can ask yourself the question for your own stuff. I'm frustrated. Why? Well, what are you frustrated at? Every time I go to work, I come back frustrated as shit. Cool. Is that job still for you? Well, yes. Well, is there a person there that's problematic? Yes. Yes, there is. Right. Okay. So do you think you can solve the problem with the person? Maybe. Gut says yes. Okay. Is that something to do with how you take control of the situation? You know, how you take responsibility for what's going on. Because at the moment you're blaming them, you know, or you've decided they're the villain. But are you just not seeing them as a human being? Are you not approaching them in a way that brings them onto your team? And this is where generators need projectors, basically, because projectors can sit here and guide you down this path. Let me give you a series of questions to guide your gut, to lead you to the answer, you know. Often generators also wanting to provide stability, being good little slaves, they don't want to let go of something that's nice and secure. You know, especially a 4-6. You want a new job before you leave the old job. You want to, and there's nothing wrong with that. But recognize when it's fucking time. Go look for that new job before you leave the old job. Go look for that new relationship before you leave the old one. And that's very common in a 4-6. It's frowned upon, right? Oh, I'm not going to leave one relationship until I found the other. I would say in modern context, you could leave one relationship for the relationship for yourself. It could be that you've decided to develop the relationship with yourself, so you leave the other one, right?
Yeah.
Perfectly normal. It could be that you replace a romantic relationship with a good friend, and that becomes the relationship that you build and work on. But that 4-6 profile very much has I don't leave something without something else to go to. It's the nature of the 4-6.
Okay.
And so understanding I'm frustrated. Okay, what's my solution? Well, I could leave this job. Ooh, I don't like that. What if I found another job? Ooh, you know, like, and there's that gut going, ooh, I don't want to just leave. Oh, what if you found another job? Ooh, I could do that. If I found another job, I wouldn't even give this 2 thoughts.
Yeah, I do. I like stability and certainty. Yeah, for sure.
Generators love stability because they're so stable in their energy that once they get humming, they want to stay humming.
Yeah.
You know, but humming and frustration is going to lead to dis-ease on every level. So there's nothing wrong with frustration, but it's a request and an invitation for you to check in. And then for you to start working out, whether it's through other people or through yourself, soundboarding through, how did I end up here? Right? And what do I need to change? And it could be just your perspective that you need to change. It could be your meditation, it could be your exercise, it could be your food. But it could also be something quite fundamental, especially if that frustration has been existing for a while. Your key theme, your key signature is satisfaction. And it's a very simple signature. And that's what's beautiful about it. You can do a good day's work and feel very satisfied. Projector does a good day's work and sees 100 other things they have to do. They don't feel satisfied. It's not so simple for them, right? But you have this lovely, simple design whereby you can get momentum very quickly. And momentum breeds success. Momentum is going to take you to more satisfaction, higher satisfaction, and more energy, less blockage, and lots of ease. Ease, 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 ease. And you are looking for ease, not lazy, easeful. Yeah. And you can have it. Run your authority correctly, you will get there.
Okay. So how do I run my authority correctly?
When you're in frustration, you backtrack and you go, okay, what's frustrating me?
Okay.
Good example, though for me it was bitterness, but it could easily work as frustration for a generator in the same situation. I went away with my family for Christmas. That holiday has gone from 3 days to 5 days. 2 days is usually my limit with my family.
Sorry.
Something's gone off.
Oh yeah, the lights went off, so I need to move so it detect the movement.
We'll do some of this. It'll wake us up.
So you're cute. So from 3 to 5.
So yeah, so it went from 3 to 5 days, right? And over that 5 days, I'm starting to realize it's too long for me. I'm committed into something. I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere. It's a car ride and a plane to get the fuck out of here, right? And I've had enough. And so as I'm sitting there, it's nobody's fault but my own, right? Every year I felt out this trip. This year I didn't feel it out properly. I just said yes. Right? It didn't run my authority, which takes time for me. Feel it out. What do you feel? Is this for you? Also, me committing to something in advance is quite problematic for me. Right? And it could also be for you too. Because what feels good today may not be good in 3 months' time. Gut says yes right now. In 3 months' time, fuck knows what that relationship has gone through. It may not be good anymore.
That's another thing that I need to remember, is to keep checking in with myself.
Always check back in, and check back in regularly. You know, I would take time. I could imagine you're kind of a journaler type of person, right?
Yeah.
So
my journal.
Exactly. So with your journal, sit down and go, what am I happy with? You know, what does gut say? So what is charging up my energy every day? What feels energetic and alive to me? Write it down. What feels like I'm dragging my heels on it? Write it down. Now, there's something to note here that's really important. When I'm dragging my heels on something, but it's not something I can get out of, right? Taxes, for example, you know, whatever it is, it then becomes, how can I make this better for myself? So for me, it's like I hire someone to put together the basics, and then I do the quicker stuff. Harder, but I can do it in 20 minutes. Does that make it easier to get my taxes done? Yes, it does. So do I hire the person? Fuck yes, right? Oh, what about money? What about no, it's all about me feeling good. Everything in my life, money is a facility through which you feel good, right? We've gotten very caught up in money in a really fucked up way. Money facilitates you feeling satisfied. That's all it's here for. And so if you're dragging your heels on something and the way to fix it is to throw a bit of money at it to make it easier for yourself, perfect. That is an excellent way to spend your money. Far better than a new pair of shoes, though there's nothing wrong with buying a new pair of shoes too, if a new pair of shoes brings you satisfaction and gets you in flow with money, right? So just understanding that I was in that situation and I was sitting there twisting up in my solar plexus, and I took that step back and I went, how did we end up here? Well, actually, I don't want to be here for 5 days, because 5 days actually becomes 7 in total, because there's a day traveling either side, and there's a flight here and there's a flight here, and it's like, I don't want to spend a week with these people in my holiday. You know, I don't want it. I just don't.
Sorry, just 1 second.
Yeah.
Sorry, 1 second. Someone is about to drop something off to me.
Cool.
And I've been waiting for that.
Yeah, cool.
Hang on. Yeah, I was waiting for that, but I think she might be downstairs, so I need to run downstairs for a little bit, if that's okay.
Cool.
But I'm checking with her.
So
yeah, okay.
understanding that's not their fault, right? My bitterness in that case, or frustration if I was a generator, is not their fault. But actually, I didn't follow my authority on getting into that thing. I didn't, in your case, check back in to make sure I still wanted to do it. And so then I ended up sticky in my emotional setting. And then also you run the risk of throwing it on others, and it's nobody else's fault but your own. But it gives me that pause to go, I'm not doing this next year. Like, my initial thing was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be real careful with this one next year, because I made a commitment that actually is probably too much for me now.
Okay. Checking it often.
And yeah, so for you, say you're in the same situation and you felt that gut light up, yep, I want to go see my mum. And then you get a week out and whatever's going on in life, you're like, I actually don't want to go. Gut says no. You know, gut goes, ugh. It's like, get out of it. You know, make an excuse, lie, whatever you like, tell the truth. You know, I'm just not feeling it. I love you very much, but I just don't feel right at the moment. And I always book changeable flights now. Extra bit of money to have the flexibility to change my mind whenever the fuck I feel like it. You know?
Which is more aligned with you.
With me, because I need to feel it out, and the feeling may change. You know? Because shit changes. And I think that's the thing with generators, is that they're so good at being consistent. They don't consider that things change.
I'm listening. Just 1 second.
It's okay.
I probably need to go downstairs in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
yeah, sorry, you're about to say something.
So is that clear?
Yes, it's clearer.
Yeah.
I think my biggest question would be like as I mentioned to you, why am I here in this world? What's my role? What do I need to do? What is happening? Also, as I mentioned as well to you, probably you remember or not, my theme for this year is expansion, because intuitively I feel I'm ready to expand. So last year, my intuition or gut feeling, now I'm confused about the two, but both of them decided that last year was theme was light. So but light. So the opposite of heavy, and light as in like ray of light, both meanings. And now I understood why my intuition chose that. That was because to prepare me to be open of possibilities, of potentials. And now I feel like throughout my meditation, the word expansion and the feeling of an expansiveness came in. So I feel now I'm ready to, now that I'm open to the possibilities, I'm ready to be expansive, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, those were my questions.
So, something to consider for you is that, where did you go? You're here. Something to consider for you is that you're a natural networker. Expansion for you means expanding your network. In the world that we live in, the idea that I might measure someone by what they can add to my network has an obscenity to it. That's incorrect. It's not obscene to consider whether someone is useful or not. Okay? It is a natural part of being a 4/6. 4/6s are the friendliest people on the planet. You know, you will give more in friendship. Yes. And I naturally get on with 4/6s very well. I'm a 1/3, so we have a natural alignment. And so I have a lot of 4/6s in my life. My sister is a 4/6. My friend who moved here before I did is a 4/6. I gather a lot of 4/6s around me. Aaron,
Your
who
tribe.
I recently did. What's that?
Your tribe.
My tribe is very strongly 4/6 and 3/5s. And they have this quality of really understanding what friendship is. And they really can they really can role model what it is to be a friend, to be part of a network. So I think it's important you understand how much you offer, so that when you're measuring someone up and going, oh, they'll be useful for that, you understand that it's within your realm to measure someone like that, to decide whether they are going to be useful to you, because you are going to be useful to them. It is in your very nature to be useful. It is in your very nature to be a great friend, to the extent where you will struggle to have someone be such a good friend to you.
Ah, yes. Sorry, can I come back in 1 minute? I need to go and pick this up. Okay, 1 second.
Go for it.
Sorry.
Hmm.
I'm back. I'm sorry.
Yay.
There's a lady who sells Indonesian food, and I bought it from her, and then she was supposed to deliver it during lunchtime, and obviously this is not lunchtime. Anyway, I'm here. I'm back. I'm focusing to you.
No
Where were
problem.
we? I'm a networker, natural networker, and I'm a good friend. Thank you.
Yeah. So expansion for you means making more friends. And it means making more friends that are useful. And like I said, I've experienced a lot of 4/6s. So one of the natural shadows of being a 4, which is this, you're here to connect. You're very aware of that. You love to make friends. You love to be out and amongst it. A generator is all about all the people. You have a huge expansive aura that makes you attractive. You can hug the whole fucking room at once, which is definitely an energy that, you guys all carry. And then this 4/6 quality, this 4 can really struggle in the shadow of rejection. And and it's a shadow, it's a misunderstanding to me. So I've seen this in my friend that lives here. And I've seen it in a few, actually. And I have a friend who's a human design reader, and he's a 4/6 projector. And so we've discussed it a bit. And there's just, I mean, you just can be the sweetest people, but your expectations, especially if you're a little bit off or out of alignment, can be out of line. And they can be out of line because they can have expectation that the other will do what you do. And
Yes.
only a
Very
4/6 or another 4 can bring that quality, particularly the 4/6. The 4/6, because that role model quality is quite generous as well. And it has a great overview. So it's like the highest frequency that you can bring with the 4th line is going to be a 6 line, sitting on the roof and seeing it all, understanding it all, having that great oversight of the role model. So the 4/6 is the friendliest of the networkers. It's the friendliest of all the 4-line profiles. And so with my friend who's here, whenever we've had issues, it's when she's felt like I might be abandoning her. And I'm a 1/3 projector. I'm selfishly turned in, first of all. A 1/3 is very much about self-experimentation and their self-experiment for everyone else. And then I'm a projector. I don't have the energy she has because she's a Manny Jenny, right? So there's this thing where you might want someone to turn up all the time, but if you're dealing with a projector or a reflector, you're dealing with a non-energy being that doesn't have the same quality you have and also can't sustain the same amount of energy. So they might turn up and have a lot of energy for an hour or two, and then they need to get the fuck away from you. And it's not personal, it's by design. So understanding and knowing, especially within the network of which you want to work with or within your team, knowing who's in your team by design, just by the basics, is very important so that you understand when it's them and not you. You know?
Okay.
And it's not a blame thing, it's just a shift of energy.
Okay. When you say that this year's expansion is to make new friends, the useful one, what do you mean by useful? What does useful look like? Is it depending on what I want to achieve at that time?
Your gut will tell you.
You might like, oh, this person is useful, it's not.
Your gut may just go, oh, right? And it might be they tell you they're a mechanic and you're like, oh, I'm going to need one of those. You know, like gut goes, oh, mechanic, log, you know.
Okay.
My friend who's very good, she runs a yoga tribe, a very good 4/6 Manny Jenny. She connects with all people within the spiritual network and she runs spiritual events, you know, and then she meets a guy who makes chai and has his story about his chai, you know. And the next thing you know, that chai guy is serving chai at one of her events where she's got a speaker. So now she has an expanding event with another quality to it. You know, now it's an experience, not just a talk, but a gathering that's centered around nourishment on 2 different levels. So it will light you up. People should be gut responded to. Is this one for me? Yes. Is this one for me? No. Is this one for me? Nothing. You know, watch out. You're such a nice person. Watch out for that tendency to be nice when that person means nothing to you. Doesn't mean the person's worthless. They're just not for you. Thank you, but you know, you're lovely. I just have no energy for it. I don't have the energy for this relationship. But that one, I feel the energy charging towards it, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does that mean going back to like the ideas or whatever? Is it kind of like, okay, I have this idea and then just kind of like starting to, I think my question is whether it's more like I'm just going to make friends with everyone and then see which one will I feel useful, or be more strategic as in like I have, like for example, I want to move to Dubai, so I will start making friends in Dubai and that's my strategy. Is that more like that?
Yeah, and so how does a 4/6 make friends? Well, they get invited to a party and they get introduced. So a 4/6 will be introduced by someone. So people like me, I bump into people, right? A 1-3, which is a nice alignment for you, you might meet a 1-3 through work, and they might invite you to something, and they will introduce you to all the people they've bumped into, right?
Okay.
Or you go to work and they go, oh, we want you to come to this work function. Great, fucking go. You should be going to work functions, and you should even be looking eventually to bring your networks together so that they can bring people and they can introduce. It's like, oh, this is Satya's event. Let me introduce you. Boom. You've been introduced. You're a 4. A 4 expands their network by having introductions made.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
And there are more capacities through which you expand, but in its simplest term, that's what you want to remember is you need to go to the party, you need to be introduced, and then create situations where you're introduced by holding the party, because you're a 4-6 and you can totally hold the party. And if right now your gut's going, yeah, I want to hold a party, perfect. You know, also don't see the world as small as like when I'm in Dubai, I make Dubai friends. When I'm in New Zealand, I make New Zealand friends. Yes, that's true. But I certainly look at the world now like I want to make friends everywhere. So I'm always looking to make connection and bump into people wherever I live. It's like I need to saturate Auckland, but I also need to get myself around so I can start building bridges in all sorts of cities. And for me, bumping into people.
Okay. And for me, it's get introduced by people.
Get introduced. So when you go to work and you make a connection, right? Because you got introduced to someone through your work, essentially, and then they invite you to something, fucking go. If your gut says yes, if your gut says no, don't go. But it's always that gut that leads you around. Oh, would you like to come to this? Yes. Oh, would you like to come to this? Oh, I'll get back to you, which is really you saying no in a polite way, you know? I'll get back to you. That's when your gut goes, you know? But you don't need to burn any bridges because you're very nice 4-6 and you're nice to everyone.
Okay, so this is what I notice about my pattern is that what's been working for me. I think I want to check in with whether this is something that is aligned with my design or not. So what's been working for me is that if I have an idea or if I have a goal or whatever, then I start telling my friends about it. So for example, when I wanting to change career, I start telling people like, oh, I'm interested in change management, or I'm looking for training or work in change management. And I told people, and then my manager at that time, for example, was like, oh, I know someone, you have to talk, this person, you go talk to him. And the other person, oh, I know this person, you go talk to her. And then from there, then kind of like opening up the opportunities. And that's long story short, that's what then leads me to this role now. Is that something like a method that I can use?
Yep, that's you using your network. That's a 4-6 at work.
Oh, so by telling my network about my intention or my ideas or whatever, that's actually how it should work. And then they will introduce me, they will invite me, they will opening up the doors for me.
They will let you know where there's something that you could go check out. They will give you stuff to respond to. But remember, just because you want something doesn't mean everything that you respond to should be a yes. You have to let your response be organic. Don't force it. Pay attention to it. Not every pathway is the aligned pathway for you. So just because you get offered what you want doesn't mean you ignore your gut saying, no, 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 no. And I've had situations where I felt something was not really right for me. And I've gone down that line. Zen bar was one of them. And I've gone down that line and it's led me to a lot of exhaustion, I didn't quite go to bitterness, but I was exhausted and I was heading that way by the time I got to the end of it, because I felt that there was something off with the invitation. And it's important that you gut respond to everything, because you can have exactly what you want, but you have to trust. This world is totally inclusive. So if you know you can get exactly what you want on your terms, you will get it. Absolutely. That's creativity for you, right? That's where you create your life. And you get this beautiful design where you wait for people to fucking offer it to you, you know, to point you and help guide you in the right direction. To indicate, hey, have you tried this? What does gut say? Gut says, yes, that's a good idea. I'll try that next, right? Gut says, seems like a good idea, but nah. Oh, don't need to waste my time. Don't need to waste my energy and end up frustrated by wasting my energy down a line that wasn't for me, wasn't vibrationally aligned for me.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
A good invitation is only a good invitation for you as your gut says yes. Doesn't make it bad. It just means it wasn't for you now. You know,
like for example, I said to you like, hey, I want to move to Europe, and then you said, oh, I have this job in Europe, and that's what I want, which is to move to Europe and get a job, like new job before I leave this current job. So on paper it's great, but then if my gut says no, just because I want it doesn't mean that I have to kind of like, oh, okay, everything is aligned, I have to leave now. Okay.
Yeah,
got it.
Exactly. What does gut say? You know, when I felt to move to Auckland, I did it really fast because I felt I needed to move fast. Was that ideal? No, fuck no. It was a shit show, right? But it all sort of works itself out. And because I felt I needed to move quick, like I was considering it, I was playing with it in my head, and my whole system went, move now, like just go now. And so I was like, fuck, I need to move. So I just moved everything super fast. And people look at it like, how did you do that? I'm like, I didn't really have a choice. My system told me that was what was needed. So I just
just kind of like have to make it work.
So you just make it work and trust that it will work. And when you say no to something that your gut says no to, trust that by not expending energy somewhere, that energy is still available, drawing other things in. And this is a shadow in your chart, watch out at spreading yourself too thin, trying to learn everything, trying to gather everything, right? Because you don't have to say yes to everything. You don't need to grab everything. And when you contain the energy, waiting for the right thing for your gut, you are going to find that energy cooks and actually more comes to you. You're going to get something even better. But you have to trust in the way this law of attraction works. It's an inclusionary world. I can have whatever I want. If I think that I'm going to miss out, I'm going to take something that comes from lack. And that lack and that fear is going to be reflected in the thing I say yes to. If I courageously step out and say no because I just know it's not right, something else comes every time. When? The less in fear you are, the quicker it comes. So it's about raising that vibration up, right? If my vibration sinks down into despair, then I'm going to have to get out of that before I can receive anything. Everything is available to you in this moment. But again, we go back to the Joe Dispenza construct. I get up in the morning and I raise my vibration. I get out of my own way and things move a lot quicker. And I don't have to worry about anything because I know they're going to move quick. If I don't do that work, things don't move as fast.
So I need to raise my vibration so then I can in the frequency of receiving what I want.
It's aligning with, right? So if I want something, but my thoughts are reflecting my vibration, and my thoughts are, but what if it doesn't happen? But what if I run out of time? But what if it's not quick enough? But what if I'm not good enough? But what if that was my last chance? You know, people have this idea about relationship. But what if, and I mean, I certainly went down this with the fun route, right? Like, there is no one better. So you create a situation where there's no one better. And it's not until you move out of that you're available to receive someone who actually is for you. You know, if you want alignment, you have to get out of your own way. So it's recognizing and catching those little thoughts that are really toilet drain thoughts where you start swirling around and around and around and you plummet your energy into that black hole. Nothing wrong with it, but this is why we meditate, to catch our own compression, to catch our own negativity. And then, so how do I get out of a negative thought? if you can't focus on a positive version of it, do something very simple. Chant.
Which is
chant.
Okay.
Just chant. So that whenever the thought comes up, you just replace it with the chant. So you're just not giving too much. I see the thought. I'm not ignoring the thought. I'm acknowledging the thought, and I'm going, oh, there it is again. I'll just chant. So just always replacing anything that's got a bit of density with something that's not. It's neutral. It's light. You know.
Okay, I like that. So, sorry, just looking at my questions.
Yes.
So, specifically because I'm 39 and you say that I should have another reading in 42. So, during that period of time, what is it that I meant to do? Or if there's any like a to-do list that my designer I don't know, like
a to-do list. Your main list at the moment as a generator, and this is the great thing about being a generator.
What do I need to focus on? Because I chuckled when you said I can spread my energy very thinly, because I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's fun. Oh, this or that, and then I kind of like, oh, that's too many things.
So the 4-6 wants to be included in everything, and the generator has to sacredly respond. Be careful that your own lack of self-worth, right, doesn't have you saying yes to everything because you so desperately want to be included, when your gut is saying, yo, dude, no. Right? So I think that balance, understanding that, spreading oneself too thin, and you have an incredible level of concentration, your ability to learn stuff, and to be the seeker, to really seek out the answers to the great questions of life. That's really there. But you don't have to necessarily come to any conclusions, and
what do you mean by that?
That means you can seek information surrounding questions without actually leading to any solutions.
Okay.
Sometimes holding space for the content of all that you have dug up is enough for other people to use that information,
Okay.
And then there's a certain element of knowing that's going to come through you that will naturally just be spoken, that comes from who you are, where it is just known. And that's beyond all of your research. It is just understood. It is beyond knowledge. So every now and again, you're going to hear these pearls of knowing that come out of you that are naturally leader pearls. And you don't need your research to lead to conclusion. And you don't need to research everything without exception. Look for what lights up your gut. Stick to that. So the most important thing anybody can do in the first stages of their experiment is learn how to run their strategy and authority. Right? So learn that you're here to respond. Oh, well, what does it mean to respond? Oh, did I initiate there? Did I reach out to initiate something when I should have been waiting for stuff to come to me, for my gut to light up towards it? Looking for those great connections where it's an introduction, because that introduction as a 4-6 gives you another opportunity for gut light up. Oh, let me introduce you to this person. And gut goes, ooh, on that introduction, you get to respond to the energy that's coming towards you. You're also in the life theme of service. And so, there are some interesting things here about this right angle cross of service. And one of the things to remember is that service is this life theme of service is always about the benefit of the other. And so the trap here, and I would say that this is a shadow to watch out for, especially with a 4/6 profile, is doing things out of obligation because you want to be loved. And again, with that 18 that comes through, because you're not good enough because of your lack of worth. So if I was you, I'd be constantly just watching that am I worthy, am I unworthy kind of thing, and starting to shift yourself towards the trust of, I'm this beautiful person and the right people are going to be in my life because I'm going to attract that with my understanding of how amazing this energy design is. And I'm going to say no to those others because it serves us both to be like, actually, my gut doesn't respond to you. So I'm not going to have the energy I want to put into this relationship. Understanding you're probably going to bring frustration to it if it's the wrong person for you. And then again, service, just because you're my friend doesn't mean I say yes to you all the time. You know, does my gut say yes to this request? Because there's this thing with the 4/6 where they feel overly obligated. And I've watched it in my friend where I've asked her for something and she's felt so guilty because she hasn't delivered when she said she was going to deliver. And the truth was she couldn't. And I was like, it's all good. Like, I'm not going to not love you because you didn't do this when I hoped you would, you know? And if you said you can't do it, that's all good. But don't tell me you can do it, then never get round to it. And then like, I need a bit of communication here, right? And then feel guilty about it. Like maybe you just couldn't do this and you just needed to say to me, I'd love to help you, but I can't. You know? And that's a phrase you could put in your little book. I'd love to help you, but I can't. Oh, why not? People don't get to ask that of you, actually. That's out of line. For someone to say, oh, why can't you help me? How dare they? It's enough to say you can't. That's enough. And you're, I think, also trusting into like, you've always been to me as a very sweet, abundant, giving, loving person. If you say to me you can't, I wouldn't even question you. I wouldn't push. And if someone pushed me, I probably wouldn't put up with them for too long, you know, because I know what I give. And so bringing some awareness into the quality of who you are. To me, this concept of worthy and unworthy, it's in the duality. You're not either. You just are. And everything about you is wonderful, even in the shadow. It's an incredibly magical concoction to be a human being. And so when you embrace, you just are what you are. You're allowed to say no to shit. You're allowed to see the quality of someone when you say no to them. What a great fucking test. I'd say no to you and you're still my friend. You're a good friend. I'd say no to you, or at least you're a better friend than someone that says, oh, well, I'm not going to be friends with you anymore. What the fuck is that?
True. Yeah.
Give them the opportunity to show themselves. Because you are a good friend. You have always been a good friend. You're very, very loving. And
thank you.
It's very natural to you. And so, and that is that quality that comes through that creative role model, that, you know, the gate that you have to the throat, or the channel that you have to the throat. You know, the self-centered love. Huh?
What does that mean?
So the self is the connection to all things. It's self-definition. You know who you are. That's important to you. Some people are undefined here. So they spend their whole fucking life trying to define themselves, which is funny. That's contrast, right? But you know who you are. And you've always known who you are. And when you've gotten into situations where you've spiraled into frustration and into not self, you've felt disconnected from who you are. And when you get free of that, you come back and you're like, oh, I'm in myself again. Like you can feel it.
Like, oh, I'm home.
I'm home. Yeah. And it's lovely to be self-defined. I wouldn't give it up for all the tea in China in this life. Like it's been wonderful to have that, to know that, to have that. It's a great quality. And it's easier to run than the contrast, I feel, in my observation. But neither is better or worse. But it's also about love. It's very much about love of all things, love of nature, love of connection to things. You know, so this is a hearty human. And when you're aligned with yourself, you are going to be able to really spread love, because it's love of self, love of nature, love of the individual, an understanding of our connection to everything. We are all fragments of one thing, not separate individuals. Even though we appreciate the individuality, we also see the intricate connection of what it is to be human, of what it is to see oneself in the other.
Okay.
So,
okay.
I mean, incredibly hardy person and solid within that.
But because of that, as you said, I need to be careful of not giving too much of myself in a way.
It's not about being careful of not giving too much of yourself. Give as much as you like, by all means. Done in alignment with your sacral. Every invitation from a friend doesn't have to be a yes.
Yeah.
They don't need you to make them worthy. And you don't need them to make you worthy. That is a duality of 3D that you all need to get over, reconcile, you know?
Okay.
You are. That's it. There's no worthy or unworthy. You are. I exist, therefore I am. And I am perfect. In all my fucked upness, I am absolutely perfect and perfectly working my way in this life, in this school for souls, towards my elevation, my expansion, my singularity within this dualistic world.
Okay. So going back to the expansion that I'm feeling I'm going to have this year, what do I need to do? I need to understand how I function better, so then I can make sort of like more informed decisions.
Yes.
So I need to listen to my sacral better. I need to expand my network by following invitations. What else do I need to do? Because I have like so many different things, like moving countries, starting my PhD, like big things like that, but also like freezing my eggs and, you know, like that kind of like.
Well, freeze your eggs, do that, because you're running out of time on that one. So if you want to freeze your eggs, do it. Do it now.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And if when I say that, your gut goes, yep, stop fucking around, go do it. Yeah. If guts
no, I already make an appointment with a nurse and all. Yeah. It's happening.
Right? Because that is time sensitive to some extent. You can, however, if the eggs are not aligned in the way that you would like, keep in mind there's physical work that can be done to rejuvenate your body so that your eggs are better quality. And they don't tell you that because they don't really know that, but that is true. And I've done that work with people. So that can be done if you want to do a second harvest. It is a real process, freezing eggs, just so you know.
I have a friend who's done it, and then she told me about the whole process of that. Are you saying the hormones injection?
Yeah. You're very stable though. So I think with your meditation, you could go through it. But I have seen people who are less stable than you go through this process, and it was horrific. Honestly, it was just a shit show. So meditation is needed, a real observer stance of watching that hormonal, emotional thing happen. Keeping in mind, you're emotionally completely open. You need to exercise. You need to move. It's essential for emotional processing, or you need someone who's emotionally defined to help you process.
Oh, right? Okay, good.
So you can borrow my channel, for example, that's emotionally defined in order for you to process emotions, or you can get out there and fucking move, right?
Because that will help me to regulate my emotions better. Yes. I've been doing exercise more frequently last year. That's probably why I mean, I'm always like a stable, positive person to begin with, but it's just kind of like feel more stable than usual because of the exercise. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't have any gates, any channels, anything there. So occasionally you'll get light ups from the moon moving through transit, like I was talking about transits earlier. The sky is always moving, and it gives us access to different things we don't have in our design. So you can also get readings per year. You can get readings for launching something. You can get readings for all sorts of things, because the transit gives us an indication of the alignment for us in these times. But yeah, you can get access to channels because of the moon. But if today you're not getting access to that and you need to process something, you got to move, or you've got to talk to someone who has that channel, and ideally potentially get an aura with them, because then you don't even need to talk to them. You can just be an aura with them and it will help you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this is why therapy can work. There's lots of reasons therapy doesn't work. There's lots of reasons it works to a point and then stops working. But one of the reasons it can really work is some people naturally have a design that can help people as therapists. So it's not about their training. It's about how they're designed and how they link up with you.
Okay. What else could be useful for me this year in my expansionness?
So as a 4/6, as an expansive person, your life theme is in service. And it's in this concept of correcting what has been spoiled, or mending what has been spoiled. And this thing has an ancestral quality to it. So like I mentioned to you earlier, it's looking back over religion, over politics, over history, over social construct, over what's gone on in the family, and seeing through the conditioning that actually creates blockages for people. You may find that the way to connect for you is through service modality. And so you want to look for things to respond to where you can serve. So you're looking.
What would be the examples of that? Like the service, I mean.
A meditation group could be an example. You could be invited to a meditation group and gut respond to it, yes. And that, because meditation is a natural act of service anyway, that could take you into a place where you're networking within that meditation group. But you're also able to serve. Service should always be for the other. And like I said to you, the area to watch out where you might contract, because often what we want to do is we want to watch where we're contracting, because the contraction is where we're limiting our expansion. So if we watch out for the contraction, we start removing those blocks, expansion becomes exponential. It's easy to expand when we stop tying an anchor around our ankles, you know? It's easy to go. So it's that thing of, I must say yes because I'm obligated to. It's not a good reason to say yes, even in a service environment. So when I've been part of groups like that, there have been invitations there to partake in certain things, and I haven't felt them to be correct for me. So I have said no. But there are other things where I've felt them to be correct for me, and I've said yes. And so there's expansive possibility within that, because I used my design within that situation where I bump into people. For you, it would be where you network with people and make friends. And as friends, you start to do things that are acts of service together, but only by gut sacral response. So sacrally, I align with this person, great. Sacrally, I'm invited and my sacral lights up, great, right? This person aligns with me, but actually the thing they're inviting me to doesn't. No, you know.
What if I don't have any immediate reaction? For example, this morning I had a meeting with, because I'm teaching in a gym at the moment, and he is thinking about expanding his gym, and he wants to rent another space across the road. Basically, what he asked me, if I want to make that as a yoga studio. It doesn't have to be my business, it will be still his business, he pay the rent and all that, but I will, if I'm open to, you know, making it my brand, or like teaching more classes and all that. And I'm like, oh, that's exciting. You know, as in like exciting as in I haven't said anything, because I didn't have like immediate intuition of like, oh yeah, I will jump to that, but also not like, oh, that would be too much, I don't want that. I didn't have that immediate reaction. But
so it's not anything, but it's
nothing.
not a yes.
It's not a yes, it's not a no.
Correct. And just because you get a no at times doesn't mean it's a no forever. And just because you get a yes doesn't mean it's a yes forever, right? So no means no, not right now.
Okay.
Yes means yes right now. And nothing means nothing.
Okay.
Nothing means nothing. It doesn't mean no, it doesn't mean yes.
So should I just kind of like meditate it a little bit, ponder about it, and then see what happens? Or
I would wait to respond to it again. But potentially what I would say to him is, it sounds really great, but I'm not lighting up towards it. So ask me again if you really feel that I'm the person for this. Ask me again later on. My suspicion is you have many things going on that you would rather do. And so this invitation is not as exciting as the other invitations that are happening.
Yeah.
And that means it's not a no, but it's definitely not a yes, because there are other things you'd rather do with your energy.
Yeah.
Could that be that you get the same invite somewhere else in a different country and all of a sudden it's a yes? Fuck yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Okay. Yeah, what else would be useful for me right now? I don't know. You're saying about the role models. Does that mean that I can be a role model?
Oh, you're born to be one.
Oh, okay.
So 3-part life, and quite often it means, from what I've observed, that you find your partner later in life. Not all. Some people have found partners and then they've found second partners later. So they found very good partners younger, and then they've moved on and found other partners later. But the first 30 years of your life are like sticking your hand in the fire whilst dancing on hot coals.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the next part of your life which is what you're in now, is really a bit of a retreat. I'm just going to take a step back from dealing with all the wrong people and getting myself in all the wrong situations. I'm just going to take a step back and observe a little bit more. And in this phase, you're really watching other people fuck it up, mainly.
Yeah.
And other people are coming to you for advice.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. So this is the 6. And of course, you've got a big network, so it's a lot of people. So a lot of people come to you for advice. And then that Chiron returns, that 50 years old. And keep in mind, any transit like Uranus opposition, which is coming up for you, that transit at 50 of Chiron, the wounded healer coming home, around 58, 59, the next Saturn returns. Your first one would have been a big transition for you as a 6th profile at 28, around 28. These things can take years to progress through. So Saturn returns can start a little bit early and go right through into the 30s, early 30s. Probably for a 6th profile, I would expect that. I would expect it to have quite an extended period. And then something like a Uranus opposition might take a couple of years to process through as well. And then Chiron can take 10 years to process the full healing process. But that from 50, it's like a rebirth. Around there's a rebirth for you. And honestly, the people I see that are in that phase that really have allowed the process and been very conscious through it, they're really living completely different lives. Totally different. It's like they had 2 totally different lives. Okay. People who worked in tech and were launching .coms who are now breathwork coaches, you know, and working and integrated with multi healers and multi independents, you know. So one, a completely white European successful 3D existence, and the other one totally transformational, transitional.
Okay.
You know, so that's coming for you right now. That tendency to retreat is great, but remember, a 4-6 is all about their network, so you have to keep building your network. Always be out there building your network, and always be ready to let go of people. You know,
it's hard for me to let go of people.
yeah, I feel that my design for other reasons doesn't write people off easily, but it's not writing them off. It's thank you, no thank you. You know, I love you very much, but I serve in a certain way and I need someone who meets me on that vibration. You know, and you're in the act of service. So it's that thing of when I serve, my gut guides me. And otherwise I leave it the fuck alone. I'm not here to fix the whole world. I'm here to deal with what I sacredly respond to. And when I do that, it's in a process of helping mending what has been broken. It's this ancestral healing thing, right? It's got this quality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And you do say
there is one other thing that I want to say. You have a completely open heart center. This means you need to keep blood cleaning every 3 months. So you need a blood cleaning process every 3 months. And that's just to detox the blood. You need cardio. You need to fucking move. You need...
Okay.
No, it's not enough. You've got to get the breath going cathartically. So dance is better, running is better, walking up hills, nose breathing is better, breath work, like cathartic breath work is good, screaming, yelling, jumping, dancing, all that sort of stuff, right?
Okay.
Because you got to get the blood and the oxygen pumping. The other thing to remember is that with this open heart center, you're open-hearted. You don't really care about a lot of shit. It doesn't bother you, but it bothers a lot of people, especially 30% of the population are defined here. And they know what they want and they will push you around. And there's nothing wrong with entertaining that. But basically what it means is you're here to retrofit what you want. You're here to gather wisdom on what you want. So it's by ending up in frustration and going, well, I don't want this, so maybe I want that. And looking for those things to sacredly respond to that may be more aligned with what you want. So it's a retrofit. And it's, oh, I'm in contrast, I'm in not self. So what is it I actually want here? Because there's clearly something I don't want here. Right? And it has that quality. And so that is something else I would look at. I would look back over things and go, well, what don't I want? Okay, so what do I want?
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
And it's a refining process. So you're going to find that you go down a pathway and you get a lot of what you want, but you still don't get quite what you want. You know? Oh, okay, cool. I got some momentum towards what I want, and now I refine again. So you got to see that as a process. You're gathering wisdom about wants and needs, and you're very open to the wants and needs of others. With emotions, you're going to get battered by other people's emotions. You're going to feel everything, but it's not necessarily your emotion. And so you're gathering wisdom on the emotional center, and you're going to be very attracted to the emotionally defined, and they're drama queens and they're chaotic, right? And they're very attractive to you because it's where you're gathering wisdom. So be very aware of this, right? Just because you feel it in every cell of your being doesn't mean it's yours.
Okay. Okay.
You do have emotions though, but you're not emotionally defined. So you don't live in the wave. I live in the wave. It's quite something, you know? And emotional people can teach you so much about the depth of life.
I can imagine.
You know, something hits them and they hit a wave and they go through a wave, and it's a lot.
I can imagine that.
And it's every day. They can wake up in the morning moody as fuck for the sake of it, because that's what it's like to live with an emotional authority.
It must be, I don't know. I imagine if I have that, it would be very tiring because I'll be like, oh my God, what is happening? What is
Well, it's fucking slow, you know, because you don't make decisions emotionally, and no one should. So when you're emotionally chaotic, don't make decisions, but you're not emotionally chaotic all of the time. But an emotional person that's running their design badly, fuck, they're always emotional. They're always a disaster. Someone with a big wave, my wave is more subtle, but someone with a big wave, fuck me. They're from depressed to elated. They look manic depressive, but they're not manic depressive. They're just out of alignment with a big wave emotionally.
Interesting.
Doesn't mean they won't have big waves when they are in alignment and something hits them, but those that are constantly chaotic, they're not manic depressive. To be honest, though, most people that are struggling emotionally are undefined. They don't have emotional definition. They're the ones I see struggling the most.
Okay. Cool. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's already 4 o'clock, and
Yes.
I think we're scheduled till 4, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to take up more of your time.
Well, I think you've got heaps to work with, honestly. Like, I understand you wanting to get more and more and more because it's, you know, it's
a lot.
It's a lot. This is recorded, so I recommend you listen to it on your own, nobody else around, so there's no other auras pushing at you.
Sorry, one more question. You did mention that my design will find partner much later in life.
Very likely, because you go through that 3-part life very distinctly. That's for the 6 profile. So as you start coming more into your own 40s, 50s, it's more likely that you'll find your partner later in life.
Okay.
It's a natural process. So a lot of 6 people are like, I didn't get my partner in my 30s. And I'm like, oh, you were probably never gonna. Or if you did, it was a fucking disaster, you know? Because that's the time when you were fucking it all up. That was the time when you were gathering information on what it is to experience and make mistakes and pivot and do all that stuff.
Okay, so it's for the better.
It is. Well, you're here for a very particular purpose. It's to be an exemplary to others. And that requires you to have lived the experience of life. So you had to experience it and you did it hard and fast in your 30, you know, 0 to 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Thank you. Cool. So you're saying I need to digest everything? No, I'm saying I need to digest everything.
Digest everything. If you have questions or when you have questions, just ask me. What I would usually do from here I have my mentoring stuff where I basically help you with your meditations, help you with your stories and your neuro-linguistic stuff, and then also help you to work your design from a rave cosmology psychology perspective, right? So rave psychology perspective, not cosmology, something else. And that just helps you keep bringing it back in and refining your awareness. So that's something that's an option if you want to do that. And then also I do the full holistic thing, which has elements of that, but also works with the body and the nutrition and stuff. You definitely would at least, I would say somewhere along the way, need to get yourself a blood purification process that you can run every 3 months.
Okay, never heard of that.
Yeah, so just basically cleaning the blood and then rebuilding and reinforcing the blood. So it's a detox and a rebuild.
Okay. Is that like a medical process?
Yeah, so for me, I would feel it out to work out what I think is for you. And it may change over time if I was working with you, but I would at least give you a base one to go with. And I'm getting a couple of different things. So I'm not going to settle on anything for you in this moment because I'm getting a couple of different taps on the shoulder about different ways you could go. So I would need time to feel that out. But again, the body shifts and changes. So sometimes we need different things, but for the same purpose. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll digest everything and integrate that into my system as much as I can, and I'll ask questions. And yeah, would you be able to send me information about what did you just say about the coaching and then the other thing?
The mentoring and that, yeah, totally.
Yeah, please.
I'll make sure I write that down so brain does not forget. Awesome. Awesome. I like moving for you, by the way. I think it's a great idea. Feels good.
Pardon?
I like moving country for you. I think it's a good idea.
Oh, right. Oh, thank you. Yeah. It has a good feeling or vibration or whatever it is. Yeah. I like that too.
Yeah. Big time. I think because the more we follow our path, the more things come up for us to respond to. And sometimes we get surprised by things we didn't even realize were good for us, but we get that opportunity to respond. And then we're like, oh wow, that actually is amazing. That's perfect. That feels so good, you know?
Okay. I loved it. Thank you so much. And you explain things in a way that makes sense to me. So thank you. And you answered my questions. My 4 big questions.
They are big questions. They're great questions, though. They were perfect for this reading, too.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's perfect for where I am right now.
Yeah. It's a real pleasure to get to work with you. Yeah, a real pleasure. Really, thank you for the invitation.
Oh, and thank you for accepting the invitation.
Yes, which I don't necessarily do these days. I've gotten far more discerning about who I take on as a client.
Oh, yay! I feel chosen. I'm worthy. You're like, have you not listened to what I said in the past 2 hours?
Clearly you have, because you're fucking with me now.
Yeah. Anyway, very good to see you. And I hope to see you in person soon.
Yes, yes. I will be down in Wellington start of March. I'm doing a capoeira grading with Vera and that.
Are you going to get a new colored belt?
Well, I have my first one. I don't know. I've been invited to the grading and I realized I just need to go to gradings because that's part of what it is to be part of that family. And I'm excited to go because I want to come to Wellington a few times this year just to train with them. Because I train up here, but it's not the same. Not the best. Enough. He's the bomb, for sure.
He is cool.
Yeah. He's so cool. Yeah.
Too cool. All right. Yeah. Well, let me know when you're here, and then I'll let you know when I'm up there.
Wonderful.
Okay.
All right.
Love you lots.
Ditto.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.